And I'm Henry Groff. It's the first alert weather day. It is starting off quiet, but I don't want that to fool anybody heading into this evening.
It would have fooled me when I left my house this morning because it was like 60 degrees and I was like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah, quite nice and sunny. But I want to just take a look behind us right now, just a full breakdown on what we're going to be watching for today. Now, I know whenever we mention severe weather, a lot of people think about the tornado risk, right? Probably agree with me.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, probably don't want to focus on that today. Going to be focusing more on that straight line wind threat because, you know, tornado literally just
wind.
Spinning column of wind. Straight line winds, if people remember from 2 weeks ago, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, that's enough to throw debris up into the air. That's why we always want to emphasize that damaging wind threat. So what are we going to be expecting for you today? That time frame is going to be around 5 to 10 o'clock this evening. So as we move through the morning, even into the afternoon, nice and quiet here in Parkersburg. As we look at the Highmark, West Virginia sky cam, even temperatures nice and mild, 64 degrees, but temperatures are expected to quickly climb up into the afternoon, getting up into those low to mid 80s. And that's all thanks to a warm front that's coming by at the moment, a little bit off to our west. But then this cold front from behind, and that's going to be sliding in late this evening, and out ahead of that is going to be that threat for severe weather for us. So as we look at futurecasts, really not much in the way of activity. That's why it's important to not let this quiet morning and afternoon trick anybody, because once we get to around 4 o'clock, we're going to be keeping our eyes off to the west for that development of showers and thunderstorms across the Cincinnati and Columbus area. That then will be skirting by the area by around 5 to 7 o'clock this evening. So that's going to be the main time frame for that threat of severe weather. May look at a little bit later into the evening, just depending on the speed of those storms. But once we pass 11 o'clock, that threat is completely over for us, and then it is going to be a lot quieter into the overnight hours and going into your Wednesday. But as we look at some heavy rain with some of those thunderstorms, can't rule out that threat for some localized flooding. Not going to be an issue for tomorrow, but with more storms for your Thursday and rain moving into Friday, that localized flooding threat is still going to be around with us at that time. But looking at your 7-day forecast, the first official day of May is going to be on Thursday. Still going to be starting off warm, low 80s, mid 80s, and 70s through the week. But by the time we get into the upcoming weekend, we do cool back down into those 60s, Emma Grace.